영어방송
The time is now 7 o'clock.
Our city, Busan, has a reputation for being a city of the old man and the sea. And yes, that is referring to our aging population. You know, though, this group of senior voters, they are a key presence in the general elections. But the makeup of this demographic is changing from the traditional conservative-based to a more center or center-left. And how they vote could really determine the results. In Hemingway's The Old Man and the Sea, the elderly protagonist proves himself a force to be reckoned with. Unlike him, Busan's so-called silver voters are going to become, and there already are, a major force to be reckoned with in this election. I'm Catherine. This is Morning Wave in Busan on Thursday, April 4th on befm, 부산영어방송. Good morning, wavers out there. I hope you are all doing well. And today I was really happy to wake up to no rain. I don't know how it's going to be exactly. I'll let you know during our weather forecast. But, I was kind of worried that all the cherry blossoms, that the blooms would just kind of fall away because they're so short-lived, right? So we do want to enjoy the last bit of the cherry blossoms as much as we can. Well, today we're going to focus on seniors. Seniors, they've always been a key presence in Busan's political landscape, but this landscape is changing as a new generation is entering this group. And this age group shows that really is a force to be reckoned with. It's growing into being the biggest size yet ever. For the April 10th general election, the 60 and above age group will exceed 1 million for the first time in Busan. This accounts for 90.5% or almost 1 in 5 voters in our city. So the sheer number alone is enough to make them a casting vote. But their leniency has become more unclear since the last election. Traditionally, seniors equaled conservative votes. And this is the case in nearly every democracy. However, the so-called 8-6 generation is now in this group, 86. This 86 generation refers to those who went to university in the 1980s, hence the 8, born in the 1960s, the 6, right? So that's why 86, who were an active part of the democratic movement during the 1980s and therefore are more liberal leaning. On top of this, senior citizens do have high voter turnout than other generations. 81% for those in their 60s and 79% of voters, they turn up in their 70s. That's according to numbers from 4 years ago. So this group is increasing not only in size, but also in political power. And it does seem that their decision may determine the direction of Busan's politics for the next 4 years. So a very important group, something that we should not ignore. Definitely not. All right, for our topic today, let's get the discussion going. What natural phenomenon or sight do you want to see or visit at least once in your lifetime? We'll call it a bucket list of sorts. So maybe, or you've been to one and you're like, you know what? It was so fantastic. I want to recommend it to all the other waivers out there. 자, 자연 경관이나 현상 중 여러분이 꼭, 이거는 정말 꼭 보고 싶다 하는 것이 다른 웨이버님들한테 꼭 보라고 추천하고 싶은 것은 뭘까요? For example, 오로라. I have yet to see the northern lights, or we call them aurora borealis. Or even Stonehenge. We still don't know how that came to be, right? Things like that. I have been to the Grand Canyon. If you haven't seen that, that is like, it's really difficult to describe. You see all the photos like in your history books, the pictures, and you imagine, okay, it's big. That's why it's called the Grand Canyon. And you go there and you're like, wow, it's just like much bigger and it's just so vast, right? So it's very breathtaking. But things like that. What site would you like to visit? Or maybe you want to recommend? You can let us know through our BFM live stream live chat on YouTube. Also, send in your messages through pound 9050. That will cost you 101. You can reach me for free on Kakao Talk or app comment board. And there's different ways to listen to us. Of course, we have the traditional dial, right? 90.5 FM, whether you're in your car, or you can check us out and also watch us on YouTube in real time. But you can also watch again through the streaming platform as well. We also have the Patbang app. All right, looking ahead to our morning together, we have Lydia coming in for Beyond the Headlines. We also have Han with City Insights. We have 2 special interviews planned for you today. You might have heard about that really, really strong earthquake that struck Taiwan. We found out yesterday. So we're going to have a special interview regarding that. Also, diet and sugary drinks. Nowadays, I mean, they're all the rage. Like in Korea, they're called like zero, whatever, soda, right? Or diet cola. Is this okay? I mean, because it is becoming much more popular, but we have to think about our health. So we're going to take that look in hour number 2 as well. And I will be back with today's headlines. It is now 7:06. These are today's headlines. Rival parties intensify campaigning as election nears. As the April 10th parliamentary elections draw near, rival parties have been intensifying their campaigning efforts, with both parties encouraging early voting, which begins tomorrow. Only 4.3% of new doctors register for internships this year. Only 131 out of 3,068 new doctors have enrolled for internship training for this year with the Council for Graduate Medical Training. The rest will not be eligible for internship training for the first half of this year. South Korea seizes vessel suspected of sanctions violation. The 3,000-ton cargo ship Dae was captured on Saturday, reportedly en route to Russia from North Korea via China. NATO invites South Korea to its summit. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg has invited President Yoon Suk-yeol along with 3 other Indo-Pacific partners to the summit in Washington, D.C. this July. Nine dead and over 900 injured in Taiwan earthquake. A 7.4 magnitude earthquake struck the island's eastern coast, killing at least 9 and injuring more than 900. Rescue efforts are ongoing for some 137 people still trapped. These are today's headlines. It's time for Busan Updates. We have Haley here in the studio. Good morning.
Good morning.
We're the Stripe Sisters today.
We are the Stripe Sisters.
Vertical, horizontal, we do it all. So, how are you?
I'm doing well, It's
Good.
Thursday.
I know, we're almost there. Yes. Well, I do want to ask you about, the natural phenomena or sites that you have on your bucket list, or maybe you've been to and you really want to say, hey, you need to go there.
I've been to, oddly enough, there's this national park called Crater Lake National Park in Oregon. And it was just kind of a surprise. It's like Cheonji, which I haven't been to in Mount Baekdu, but it's just a volcanic lake that was created by a volcano, and the water is just so crystal clear. It is beautiful.
Yes,
and
yes.
you don't have to hike because you can drive up there.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah. Yeah, I recommend it.
I'm there.
And I do want to see Antelope Canyon.
Oh.
At one point, and do and take my profile picture there.
There?
So, yeah. So it's on my bucket list.
All right. Thanks for sharing. First, we are now finding out about this attempt, arsonist who attempted, I guess, to set a fire on the local subway last month, which has revealed some safety issues regarding the city's transit system.
Right. So the incident happened last month, but the reports are coming out this week about that arson attempt. So this happened on March 9th around 12:25 p.m. on line 1 going from Kusa Station to Changjeon Station. The suspect, a 55-year-old man, set fire to 2 small pieces of paper and he threw them onto the floor, attempting to set a fire to the train. Thankfully, it didn't catch, and the passengers called the situation into the station safety centers and the Transportation Corporation. So 2 stations later at Myeongnun Station, an employee with the Transportation Corporation at the station got onto the subway and asked the suspect to basically leave the train. He refused. There was this altercation with verbal spats and cussing the employee out. And the suspect actually stayed on the subway for another station to Dongnae Station. So at that point, he got off, but before the authorities came, he hid somewhere on the platform and apparently got on the next train.
What I don't understand, so maybe you can clarify, but from what I understand, the subway train kept going.
Right, with the suspect on board, the man who tried to set the fire. So there's the control center, which is supposed to oversee these situations. It ordered a train to keep moving because, at least according to its position, the fire didn't catch. So it wasn't a fire.
Okay.
Basically, is its position. So, of course, criticism, it's just not you who finds the situation puzzling.
Right.
There is criticism that the train should not have resumed operation with the attempted arsonist on board. And there are also concerns that just one employee got on the train to try to stop the situation because we don't know what he may have had on him, in terms of weapons. And
yes.
According to the manual, 2 employees as a team should respond to such situations. But the reason is, going back to the time, it was 12:25 lunchtime. So there was only one person who was on duty at the time.
I see.
Also, there was no hotline system to alert the police immediately because it was the weekend, there was no police officer on duty at the Oncheonjang police unit who could have responded.
I'll be honest though, I heard too many ands in your story.
Yeah.
And there were too many just,
It was just, little things that
circumstances.
kind of add up to a larger incident.
Right. So once again, all small but concerning issues that definitely show holes in our system.
Right, because, accidents do happen on weekends and lunchtime.
Of course.
So
yes.
Experts say that the biggest problem was that, like you said, the train kept on going when the situation was still hot or still active at Myeongnun Station. Because once again, the arsonist could have had other dangerous or more dangerous substance on him.
Yes.
And the thing is, the explanation from the Busan Metro was that Dongnae Station, because it's a larger station, transfer station, had more staff on duty than Myeongnun. So they put the train to the station to have more staff respond to it to get
So were
help.
they there ready to, I guess, capture him?
Good question. But when they got to Dongnae Station, the police and the station staff arrived later after the suspect had taken off. So no. So, and then here are the structural issues. It's ambiguous who has the authority to actually order the train to stop when these accidents happen on the scene. Because in the subway manual, there are only guidelines about incidents involving fires or weapons, and fires or weapons are rather not included on the subway manual, at least yet. And then there's kind of added pressure for the staff to run the subway on time or face civic complaints, and they actually don't have the judicial powers to actively restrain these individuals in these cases. And the thing is, for public corporations, for public officials, the biggest thing they fear is civic complaints because
Unfortunately, that's how it is.
That's the reality.
Yes.
That's the world that we live in. So yeah, that's why people are not responding more actively to these situations. But there is this thing called Heinrich's Law, which says for every major accidents, prior to this, there are 29 accidents that cause minor injuries and 300 accidents that cause no injuries. So, I mean, we don't want to contribute to the buildup for that number.
Right. And once again, it's because, lots of people complain if trains are not on time, which is understandable. But when we think about the overall safety of the system, we wouldn't want to be caught on a subway train where there is an incident,
For
right?
subway station staff, flight attendants and everyone, they only really focus on customer service training. They're not service, industry providers.
Right.
They're at most safety personnel.
All right. Next up. It's been a month since the after-school public care 늘봄 system was implemented. We need to get a progress report. How's it going?
Right. So, well, in some parts and room for improvement in others. So the 늘봄 public childcare has been in place for a full month. Full accommodations provided for first graders, and it is the fastest system to be put in place in Busan out of the entire country. So according to the Busan Metropolitan Office of Education, some 90% of first graders are using 늘봄. And then second graders, 83%, third graders, 64%.
I see.
And some of the unique programs include webtoon creation, horseback riding, English opera. And I'm like, can I?
Where's this?
Can I join? So the Busan Office of Education also sent in administrative workers who are dedicated to only the 늘봄 program to ease the workload. And one officer is in charge of 2 schools. There are also 150 contract teachers. So overall parental and student satisfaction is high.
Well, I want to know about the teachers.
Right. So this expedited implementation, while good for parents, it's causing still a bit of a confusion on the scene. So the first issue is with the lack of space. So only 45% of those teachers who were surveyed said that their respective schools have plenty of room for these classes. And 82% of the teachers said that the program was implemented unilaterally, one-sided by the school, and there is or was confusion on the scene.
Yes.
Also, the teachers' union stated that the program should be considerate of the students who don't participate in the program.
Yes.
So that's because in many of the schools, the libraries are used for these programs. So for students who are not taking the programs, who want to use the libraries after school, they cannot.
Oh, so there are some logistical issues that need to be still kind of worked out, right? All right, lastly, there is a new international flight out of Busan. Let's hear about it.
And with summer vacation kind of coming up, some people are already planning. You have one more city that will be available via a direct flight from Busan. So Air Busan announced the launch of the Busan Bohol line. And Bohol is an island in the Philippines, popular vacation spot for leisure, beaches, coral reefs, and unique geological formations. So the flights will operate 4 times a week, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday from May 1st. And then there will be 3 additional flights added to that per week during peak vacation season in July and August. The flight will take 4 hours and 20 minutes, and the airline is currently running a special promotion.
Let's go together, everybody.
Yes.
On a plane. Let's get a plane. All right. Well, thank you, Haley, for the updates for now. And once again, for our topic today, we are talking about any natural phenomenon or site that you want to visit, you want to lay your eyes on before, we'll just say once, in your lifetime before you kick the bucket is so kind of drastic. But anyhow, maybe you've been to one and you want to recommend one to our fellow wavers. So let us know what you're thinking of. And here is your traffic and weather. First, we have your traffic weather. It is slow going on Nakdong-Namno from Gangso Police Station to Seongsan three-way intersection right now. There's congestion being reported on the Dongso overpass from the Hwangyong interchange to the old Daegum tollgate. There's also backup from the Manduk intersection to the Deokcheon interchange on the Namhae Expressway. As for the weather, it's currently 13 degrees Celsius under partially cloudy skies, with more clouds rolling in starting in the afternoon. The afternoon highs will go up to just 16 degrees Celsius, making for another cool day. And by the way, Today happens to be Cheongmyeong, the 5th of the 24 solar cycles, marking the time when the skies begin to clear up, paving the way for spring. And we definitely want that, right? So this was your traffic and weather.
Check this out.
This is Morning Wave Busan.
Everybody, wait a minute.
This is Morning Wave.
Morning Wave.
You are listening to
Morning Wave.
Morning Wave in Busan.
What show is this?
This is Morning Wave in Busan.
Here we go. Morning Wave in Busan.
It's time for News Digest, so let's dig into our news today. Haley's back. She's been here the whole time, so she's here again. All right, first, Haley, we're less than a week away from the general elections, and early voting starts tomorrow. What should people know?
Right, so early voting takes place on Friday and Saturday. That would be April 5th and 6th. So any eligible voter, which means a Korean citizen over the age of 18, can vote anywhere in the country for early voting. And that, by the way, 18 is a person who was born on or after April 11th of 2006. Crazy, 2006. My goodness. So polls open from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. across the country. And one thing that you need to bring, your ID. So
Okay.
a valid government-issued ID, which has your photo and your date of birth. So this would include your 주민등록증, resident registration, your passport, driver's license, public official's ID, a national technical license, and or a student ID.
Okay.
So keep that in mind. And you can find the nearest early voting station on the government's website, nec.go.kr, or on any major app application. If you just search for 사전투표소, it'll pop up. And upside of early voting, once again, you can vote at a station that is not in your district, because for April 10th, the actual day of the election, you do have to go to your designated polling station.
Right. So I was thinking about the date. It's born on or before April 10th, 2006.
Yes, sorry. Born on or
'Cause I was gonna
before.
say,
No.
That would make them too young.
Right.
Right.
April 10th, April 9th, April 8th, and so on.
Before.
Excuse
yes.
me. Thank you.
Right. So can you walk us through what happens when you go to vote early so we know the logistics?
Right. So you get in line and you present your ID to the election official.
Yes.
They'll check your face and the photo, and they will print your ballot for early voting. This is what's different, because if it's the actual election date, they'll have the piles of ballots already printed because
Right.
it has the same candidate for that district. However, because you can vote anywhere, they'll actually print that ballot.
Okay.
So you'll get two ballots, a minimum of two ballots. The first one is your 지역구, the district representative, where you vote for the person. In the number one spot will be the Democratic Party candidate. In number two spot, People Power Party candidate. Fifth, a Green Justice Party. Sixth, New Future Party. And then independent candidates.
Okay.
And then the second ballot is the proportional representative, the 비례대표 ballot. That, by the way, will be the longest that you've ever seen at
How long?
51.7 centimeter.
That's long.
That is long.
Yes.
And that's why everything will be hand counted, because the machines cannot accommodate that. There will be no number one or number two on the proportional representative. Number three will be 더불어민주연합, the DP satellite party. Number four will be 국민의 미래, the PPP satellite party. Seventh spot, Reform Party. 8, Liberty Unification Party. 9, 조국 Reform Party. And the rest will be in Korean alphabetical Kannada order.
And what about, the whole issue always, valid versus invalid votes?
Right. So please keep this in mind, because you will not be issued a new ballot even if you mess up. So don't invalidate your ballot. So most important thing, use only the stamp that's provided for you inside the booth.
Okay.
And as long as it's clear which candidate/party you voted for, your vote counts. So for instance, if your stamp only gets on partially onto the ballot, that's fine.
It's okay.
If you, in the square, if you stamp the stamp multiple times, that's also okay as long as it's only for one candidate.
I see.
Right. If it's slightly outside the box or if it's not in the exact box but on the name or the number of that candidate, that's also fine. Once again, as long as it's clear
Who you're
what
voting
your
for.
intention
Yes.
is, that's fine.
Okay.
So if you've stamped inside the box, but if you, I don't know, for some reason tested the stamp outside the box or on the margins, once again, that's okay as long as we know who you voted for.
No, I laugh because, like, when you go to stationery stores, you like to
Exactly.
test things out, right? I get it, yes.
But here is the things that are not okay. This is how you can
important.
invalidate your vote. Voting not using the stamps, like signing your name, initials, right. Voting for multiple candidates and voting between the lines so much so you're exactly in the middle and they don't know who you voted for. So you, once again, you cannot have any writing on the ballot. So just don't bring any pens or anything into the booth.
It's very clear. Use their stamp.
Yes.
Okay. So on principle, there should only be, you in the booth. But aren't there some exceptions?
There are exceptions. So, for example, if you have young children in elementary school age or younger, you may take them with you to vote. But if your child is in kindergarten or younger, you actually can take them inside the booth. So, yeah, they can actually see you vote.
Okay.
Make sure they're not yelling out, whichever number. But if they're in elementary school, you can take them to the polling station, but not inside the booth. So they can just kind of hang out and watch your leg as you're voting.
Yes.
And, if your child is middle school or older, leave them at home, or they probably don't want to go with you anyways. If you need assistance for physical disabilities, if you have, sight issues, you may have family members or a designated guardian assist you.
I see.
By the way, for photos, because that 인증샷 is
Right.
important.
Yes.
And I say it's important because it also encourages other people to go out and vote and
Yes.
maybe can remind people, hey, it's early voting.
Yes.
So here's what's not allowed. Just simple. Don't take any photos inside. And that includes inside the polling booth and the station.
The station also.
The station also.
Okay.
Outside, it's all fair game. You can take photos in front of the candidates' posters. You can do, the thumbs up, the V, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, so on and so
Whatever.
forth to
Yes.
promote the candidate that you support.
Outside.
Outside.
Got
Yes.
it. And starting this election, the general public can campaign for the candidate or party they support, but I guess there's like a caveat.
Right. So voters can voluntarily campaign for the party or the candidate, even using props that you've created. So that can be signs or anything, but to a certain extent. And I mean size. Earlier this week, there was a rather interesting case in Ilkwang that could have made it onto 와글와글, but a presumed supporter for Ilkwang's PPP candidate showed up to candidate Jung Dong-man's campaign event wearing a 2-meter tall dinosaur suit.
But it was red, wasn't it?
It was red. So here's the thing, though. The dinosaur suit was red, but it didn't have any number or the candidate's name.
Okay.
So it technically didn't violate election law, but it was iffy.
Yeah.
Because the law says volunteers may use props that are within 25 centimeters in length, height, or width. And if it's a sign, it doesn't include the handle. So the
Okay.
sign itself has to be 25 by 25 or smaller. So according to election officials, at this point, most violators, they just didn't know. So they just end up with a warning and a confiscation of that sign or the prop. But they do warn that it may change if one person keeps violating that law.
Yes.
Also, we are in the quote-unquote blind period where no new opinion poll results may be published to not sway public opinion. However, stations and media outlets are allowed to publish polls that were conducted before today, given they cite when the polls were conducted.
Absolutely, and we're trying to adhere to all the rules, right? All right, so lastly, the presidential office announced that it's expanding the R&D budget to an unprecedented amount next year.
Right, so there was a reduction and now the
Yeah.
expansion. So according to the presidential senior secretary for science and technology, who told the press yesterday, the office will vastly increase the R&D budget budget for next year to the biggest ever. So Secretary Park Sang-wook said that the government will also revamp the way it supports R&D projects to prepare for the unprecedented speed of technological changes.
Right. And like you just said, I mean, that's a big flip from this year's budget. I mean, there was a big cut last year into this year.
So this year's research and development budget was 26.5 trillion won, which was a 14.7% cut from the previous year.
Yes.
But this was the first time since 1991 that the country has actually decreased the R&D budget.
Right.
So at that point, President Yoon Suk-yeol sort of, you could say, vilified some in the science field, what he called the cartel of interest within science. So there are voices that raise questions as to whether this announcement, which came exactly a week before the election, could be a move to try to court votes. The science secretary did admit that there were adjustments over what he called the inefficiencies in the science field that happened through the dedicated and sacrificial cooperation from the researchers.
I see. Very interesting. Well, this is news for today, but of course, Haley will be back in hour number 2, so thank you.
See you in a bit.
All right, we're ready for our first song, and this is a Taejin Waver's song request, 우리의 꿈 by 코요테.
내 어린 시절 우연히 들었던 믿지 못할 한마디 이 세상을 다 준다는 매혹적인 얘기 내게 꿈을 심어주었어 말도 안 돼 고개 져도 내 안에 나를 보고 속삭여 세상은 꿈꾸는 자의 것이라고 용기를 내 넌 할 수 있어
쉼 없이 흘러가는 시간 이대로 보낼 수는 없잖아 함께 도전하는 거야 너와 나도 손을 잡고 우리들 모두의 꿈을 모아서 외로움과 두려움이 우릴 힘들게 하여도 결코 피하지 않아 끝없이 펼쳐진 그 넓은 바다에 희망이 우리를 부르니까 거센 바람 높은 파도가 우리 앞길 막아서도 결코 두렵지 않아 끝없이 펼쳐진 수많은 시련들 밝은 내일 위한 거야
말도 안 돼 고개 져도 내 안에 나를 보고 속삭여 세상은 꿈꾸는 자의 것이라고 용기를 내 넌 할 수 있어
쉼 없이 흘러가는 시간 이대로 보낼 수는 없잖아 함께 도전하는 거야 너와 나도 손을 잡고 우리들 모두의 꿈을 모아서 외로움과 두려움이 우릴 힘들게 하여도
Welcome back, everybody. It's now 7:34 on this Thursday morning. We are talking about the vote, right? In particular, the silver vote, as they say, spotlighting the 60 and over age group and the decision that they're going to have to make on April 10th. The 60 and up population accounts for 40% of Saha district, and the original city center has a high ratio of voters over the age of 70. Naturally, candidates in these areas are catering to this demographic because, they do their research. In Saha Kap, TP candidate Choi In-ho has pledged to improve facilities in senior centers and install additional escalators and elevators in subway stations. His opponent, the PPP's Lee Seung-won, has pledged free lunches for senior centers and expanding a home nurse and caregiver programs. In Saha-ul, DP candidate Lee Jae-sung is targeting Alzheimer's with a dedicated care center, and his opponent PPP Cho Kyung-tae a cultural center along with elevators for high ground. In Seodong, the DP candidate there, Choi Hyung-wook, is promising senior jobs and focusing on leisure and lifetime learning. The PPP's candidate Kwak Yu-taek is making medical and pharmaceutical services more mobile. So both the DP and PPP on a nationwide level, they have pledged adding caregiver services, nursing hospitals, and such to national insurance coverage. So you can tell who they are courting, can't you? Yes, that demographic, and that's why we are spotlighting them today. Well, back to our topic for Thursday morning. What natural phenomenon or site do you want to visit? What's on your bucket list? Like, I have to see this. Or maybe you've been to one, or you've been somewhere that was so amazing, you want to recommend it to our fellow wavers. Right, so whether popular one, the Northern Lights, that's definitely on my bucket list too, because I haven't been to any of the Scandinavian countries. While I'm there, why not? Of course, see the Aurora Borealis, right? Northern Lights. Let's see some of your other responses. I have to give a shout out to Tejin Waver today because he sent in these 3 amazing videos to our Kakao chat. And it's the first one, I believe it's of him and his lovely family. They're snorkeling or with, I have to say, I don't want to say school of fish because there's so many of them. I mean, just like tons of fish. It's so amazing, the video. And then the next video he sends, by the way, he went to Bohol, Philippines. We talked about that in Busan Updates, right? Where there's going to be a direct flight. So showing us video after video. And yes, he even got to swim right next to a 고래상어, a whale shark. And he got footage of it. How amazing is that? So, Leslie chiming in said, I would love to see the Northern Lights. We are planning a trip to Scandinavia, Finland, Denmark, Sweden in fall 2025. That's next year. So I will hopefully check it off the list then. So that's like literally on your itinerary, your schedule. Ooh. So I am so jealous about that. Hey, I want to recommend a place. I've talked about Fiji a couple times, but I haven't really gotten into how beautiful it is. It's still, I don't know, it's been a while and I'm hoping that it has still stayed that pristine. The Fijian Islands are so amazing. The water, you go ankle deep, not exaggerating. You can see fish even with your feet, just, with your ankles in the seawater at the beach. The beaches, bar none, the most beautiful islands I've seen. But I'm not that well traveled, but still. And even a Jacques Cousteau called, Fiji, the soft coral capital of the world. That's how beautiful it is. So I would highly recommend that spot as well. All right, I'll be back with a hot clip for today. Today's hot clip. In Scotland, there was this, controversial law that came to be, and it's called the hate crime law. So you might think, why is it controversial? Don't we want to fight against hate crimes? Well, let's listen to the clip from Sky News.
Scotland's new hate crime laws have come into force, but why are some people calling it controversial? The Hate Crime and Public Order Act came into effect on Monday the 1st of April, aiming to tackle the harm caused by hatred and prejudice towards people with certain characteristics, including religion, sexual orientation and transgender identity. Supporters of the new bill insist that it will make Scotland more tolerant, but opponents have argued that it will stifle free speech and could even be weaponised to settle scores. Director of the campaign group for Women Scotland said the act was a mess and that many malicious reports will be made.
We know that there are people out there who have got lists of people that they are looking to target, that they are seeing this as an opportunity to settle scores.
Celebrities like J.K. Rowling and Elon Musk have both publicly criticised the new bill. Miss Rowling has long been involved in a battle with the transgender community, who accuse her of being transphobic. The author denies this accusation, saying she wants to defend women's rights. Miss Rowling put out a series of comments on X about transgender women, including double rapist Isla Bryson, who was jailed for 8 years last year for raping 2 women. Bryson, who was born Adam Graham and living as a man at the time of the attacks, was initially housed in an all-female jail before the decision received backlash. J.K. Rowling has dared police to arrest her after criticising the new hate crime laws. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has also defended J.K. Rowling, saying people should not be criminalised for stating simple facts on biology.
We're not going to do anything like that here in England. We should not be criminalising people saying common sense things about biological sex. Clearly that isn't right. We have a proud tradition of free speech, and I think it just shows, whether it's the SNP or the Labour, these are the wrong set of priorities for the country. I'm focused on delivering on the things that really matter.
Yes, so that was towards the end the voice of Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. He was actually not defending J.K. Rowling per se, but saying that she shouldn't be arrested for expressing her opinions. And so that's why this is gaining more traction, because many people think that J.K. Rowling is out of line. Others are supporting her, saying, freedom of speech, that should not be touched anyhow. Very controversial. This was your hot clip for today.
Stay tuned. You're listening to Morning Wave in Busan.
It is now time for Lydia. We have her in the studio for Beyond the Headlines. Good morning. I know you're not feeling well.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yes. So I don't even know if you have had a chance to think about our text topic, but I'm going to throw it out there just in case. Is there a natural monument or site that you would like to see? Like it's on your bucket list anywhere around the world?
Definitely want to see the pyramids and the Jesus statue in Rio de Janeiro. And
Christ the Redeemer.
Yes. And then I would like to go see the Genghis Khan in Mongolia. That'll be cool.
Oh, interesting. Good choices. All right, so let's dive into our topic for today. What do you have?
Well, are you part of Generation Z, wondering if a college degree is the only path to success in today's job market?
Ooh.
Well, think again. Today we're diving into the evolving world of employment for Gen Z.
Okay, I was going to say, well, I'm not Gen Z. However, the question, wondering if a college degree is the only path to success, that is an age-old question, especially here in Korea, right?
Yes. So, and since you're a very successful mother who, made sure that your children got the best education possible, but deep down, is college really for everyone?
I don't know. The thing is, I think my opinion has changed. When I was younger, I used to think college is the path. It's the only way to succeed in life, where my thoughts were kind of maybe narrower. But now that, I'm I guess a full-fledged adult, I think my opinion has changed. College isn't for everyone, in my opinion.
Oh, that's so good to hear.
That's just me, though.
Because recently in the U.S., more and more young folks are choosing technical jobs instead of heading off to college. And they're being called the tool belt generation, which reflects a move towards valuing practical skills over traditional degrees.
Okay.
And this shift comes as tuition fees continue to climb, making people wonder if university diplomas are really worth it anymore.
And the thing is, we complain about college tuition here in Korea. It's nothing compared. I'll be honest, even if you are living in state, in a particular state, and you choose to go to a university or college within your home state, it's still pricey, isn't it?
Yes. I think it depends, like you said, but on average, it costs around $20,000 up to over $50,000.
Right.
So it's a lot. And, by the end of last year, roughly 43 million Americans had outstanding federal student loan debt, a collective of $1.3 trillion.
Oh my gosh.
With an average borrower owing $37,000. And that's about 13% of the U.S. population.
So $37,000, just if we roughly estimate, that's like 4,500만 원.
Oh, wow.
That's the average debt that you have. And I know people who have much more than that, especially if you go to let's say grad school and med school and all that. I mean,
Yes.
we're talking about like hundreds of thousands of dollars just in student loans, right?
Absolutely. And the crazy thing is, according to data, only 37% of Americans aged 25 and up had a bachelor's degree last year.
Oh.
Yes. So because of, how expensive it is to go to school.
Yes.
A lot of Gen Z students apparently left on their own during remote learning. Many of them felt that they weren't learning enough, and the idea of 4 more years of school or even 2 had little appeal. And in fact, the number of students enrolled in vocational training colleges in the U.S. increased 16% last year, the highest level since 2018.
Okay.
And during the same period, number of students studying areas like construction technology increased by 23%.
Well, I certainly like the idea. It does seem like, kind of the negative image of these so-called technical jobs or technical schools. Well, I'm hoping, if I'm not mistaken, that it's kind of disappearing. I hope it does.
Yes. Plus, Americans have lost, apparently, confidence in the value of college degrees over the years, with many suggesting that they're unsure that the cost of education is worth it. And students working in these technical jobs are saying things like, it feels good at the end of the day, and I'm physically doing something, and there's a sense of completion. And last year, the wages of new construction workers rose 5%. So now they're earning about $48,000. That's like 65 million won.
For construction workers.
Yeah.
Wow.
And a salary analysis company explained that the median annual salary for new construction employees is actually more than accountants and IT maintenance industries for 4 years now.
So I want to slow down a little because for construction work, for the wages of new construction workers, 6,500만 원, that's not something, that's not
something we get here in Korea.
Right, definitely not the wages we get here. But of course, cost of living might be higher according to where you are.
Yes.
But I mean, when we think about things like software, IT, I mean, there are some practical things in life where you need help.
Yes.
Fixing a leak in your roof. If you need, you need to call AS or a service person or a repair person, that's just life, right?
Yes. And in a recent survey, the majority of young people said blue-collar jobs seem more secure than white-collar ones with, developments of generative AI technology that could sort of render some jobs obsolete. So Gen Zers are certainly looking to trades to make money.
Okay.
With many of them actually posting online nowadays about their large salaries. People who work in fields like, welding and plumbing. In one TikTok, this young electrical lineman said that he makes about $200,000 a year and he owns multiple homes.
Interesting. So tell us more about why this is happening, though.
So according to a report by Wall Street Journal, recently a large number of baby boomers in the United States have retired.
Okay.
So these are people that were born between 1946 in 1964. Acting is a factor in increasing the annual salary for technical workers. Also, the falling U.S. birth rate is part of the reason. It basically produced fewer workers in the years ahead to replace the number of people retiring.
Yes.
And in addition, as the U.S. government actively promotes reshoring, which means they want all these companies back to the home country, which makes the demand for construction and manufacturing also increasing, raising the annual salary for technical workers.
Yes, yes.
And also, President Joe Biden, in his State of the Union speech earlier this year, acknowledged the need for skill-based hiring more than once, noting that private companies are now investing billions of dollars in the U.S. to build new chip factories, and which is creating tens of thousands of jobs, a lot of them paying over $100,000 a year, and most importantly, don't require a college degree.
Yes, yes.
And according to the World Economic Forum, this Gen Z workers are expected to make up a quarter of the workforce by 2025. And it's never been more important for businesses to get their heads around the generations leading the future.
Very interesting. And you know how, like, especially the new generation, Gen Z, they kind of are leaning towards different jobs than the previous generations, right?
Yes. Have you ever been asked the question, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Like all the time.
The classic.
Yes. Anything that ends in a sa. Like,
yeah.
I'm talking about typical
is a
Korean
good
parents, my
answer.
parents. I don't want to say all parents. My parents were like that. They certainly were.
Yes,
like anything that ends
doctors,
in a
lawyers, teachers. Well, the truth is, the majority of young people today don't want to be doctors or teachers or chefs or writer. Instead, being an influencer has become one of the most desired career path for Gen Z, a job title that didn't even exist 15 years ago.
15 years ago, if someone says, I'm an influencer, what do you influence?
What is that?
What is that? Who are you influencing?
In one study from 2020, it showed that 54% of 13-year to 38-year-olds in America wanted to become an influencer.
More than half?
More than half.
That's extreme.
So, yes, so becoming a YouTuber, streamer, vlogger, it's become the most popular dream job. And, people talk about how the pandemic not only forced people to work online, but it really drastically increased how much of their personal time they spend on the internet. And it became very clear to people, especially younger generations, that making money as a content creator is way more attainable than they had realized.
And you don't necessarily need a college degree, right?
And, the influencer market is $16.4 billion in 2022.
Wow.
Yes, and now they have classes, boot camps, programs in school for kids that teaches the skills they need to become content creators.
Really? Like
Yes.
they're actually they have classes on this because
like legit courses.
Wow, that's pretty for kids.
Yes. So for instance, this one school in Kuala Lumpur, for 2 months, students from age 6 to 12, so young, they attend weekend sessions to learn content creation basics like vlogging devices and editing. So apparently the program is kind of legit. So each students pick one item they like a book or a toy, and they start with learning how to create stories. Apparently being a good content creator is being a good storyteller.
Right.
And they also learn how to utilize ChatGPT. They also make sure that their facts are straight. They also learn things like sound editing, digital animation, and video editing.
I want to go. Where is
Yes,
this
I know. We all
Right?
need to take this class.
They should have this. This is
They
such a great
apparently
idea.
also integrate mathematics and coding into lessons, making sure the students analyze the data to know what's the best time to share their content. Right.
The reason why I'm so amazed is kids are doing it anyway. Maybe there should be classes on teaching them. And you mentioned things like math and coding and video editing, fact checking. These are all life skills that we need anyway.
Yes.
But if you're gonna be, I don't know, doing it as a hobby, whether it's a hobby or something you want to do full time, I'm not discouraging education. Of course, education is so important. But this is also, life lessons, right?
It's a different sort of education.
Yes.
Yes.
Interesting.
I mean, but, at the end of the day, it's not an easy career
It's
path.
not.
And you do need to spend a lot of time working on it, whether
Right.
you like it or not.
And what you see on social media, like, we get like the end result, the end product.
Yes.
Do you know how many hours, literally that go into making each video, the content that is created? And so, for those of you who do it, really kudos.
Yes,
seriously.
kudos. Teach me your way.
Yes, I need to know. All right. Well, thank you for bringing a very interesting topic for Beyond the Headlines for our listeners. I hope you feel better soon.
Oh, thank you so much. I hope so too.
All right. Everybody, this was Lydia. And for our final song for hour number 1, we have Lazy Sunshine and Mr. Moon by Connie Frogbess.
Können gar nichts dagegen tun, dass sie am Himmel sich niemals trafen. Denn wenn er aufsteht, dann geht sie schlafen. Lady Sunshine und Mr. Moon können gar nichts dagegen tun, wenn sie auch träumen von einem Märchen, ein Pärchen werden sie nie. Da sind wir beide besser dran, viel besser dran, weil mich dein Mund so oft ich will am Tage küssen kann. Hier unten ist das Leben schön für dich und mich. Dein Mund sagt mir so oft ich will, mein Schatz, ich liebe dich. Doch Lady Sunshine und Mr. Moon können gar nichts dagegen tun, wenn sie auch träumen von einem Märchen, ein Pärchen werden sie nie. Lady Sunshine und Mr. Moon würden gern was dagegen tun, dass sie so einsam dort oben wandern, dass sie nur träumen, verliebt vom anderen.
Your Race to the World.
So nice today. I'm sure this won't be a big deal. A 3-second long lapse in judgment can burn up an entire mountain, which will take 100 years to recover. We can protect these lush forests if you follow these guidelines. First, do not bring flammable materials to the mountains. Second, do not cook or camp in the mountains. Third, do not litter cigarette butts. Your small actions are the first step towards protecting the beautiful forest. This campaign is brought to you by befm 부산영어방송.
보이스피싱에 눈을 뜨시오.
공양미를 대출해드릴 수 있을 것 같아요. 근데 수수료를 좀.
보이스피싱 전화 올 땐 전화 끊고 확인하기.
실장님의 계좌가 금융범죄에 연루되었습니다.
기관 사칭 사기 전화 112로 신고하기. 택배 주소 오류 사기 인터넷 주소 클릭한대.
늘 의심하고 꼭 전화 끊고 또 확인하고.
보인다 보여.
수법이
보이는구나.
눈을 뜨면 예방책이 보입니다.
공익광고협의회.
The time is now 8 o'clock.
It's morning.
And what a lovely morning.
Dynamic Busan.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello, Chevy.
What show is this?
Hello.
Hello, baby.
Hey, buddy.
Hello, everybody.
Live from Korea's dynamic city, this is Morning Wave in Busan.
The time is now 8 o'clock, and this is news highlights. Rival parties intensify campaigning as election nears. As the April 10th parliamentary elections draw near, rival parties have been intensifying their campaigning efforts. The ruling People Power Party, or PPP, has ramped up its criticism of the main opposition Democratic Party, or DP, focusing on some of its controversial candidates involved in real estate speculation. Meanwhile, the DP has urged voters to deliver a certain judgment on what it calls the incompetent Yoon Suk-yeol administration, with former President Moon Jae-in joining the campaign trail to bolster the message. Both parties have also encouraged eligible voters to participate in early voting, which begins tomorrow. Only 4.3% of new doctors register for internships this year. Only 131 out of 3,068 new doctors, or 4.3%, have enrolled for internship training for this year, with the Council for Graduate Medical Training, according to the Health Ministry yesterday. The rest will not be eligible for internship training for the first half of this year. This is expected to leave a significant gap in the pipeline for new doctors over the next 4 to 5 years. In the meantime, talks between the government and the doctors may still be far off, as the Korea Medical Association executive who proposed this meeting without preconditions resigned yesterday amid internal turmoil. South Korea seizes vessel suspected of sanctions violation. The South Korean Coast Guard seized a stateless vessel allegedly engaged in sanctions violation involving North Korea from the waters off Yeosu. The 3,000-ton cargo ship Taeyi was captured on Saturday, reportedly en route to Russia from North Korea via China. The ship has been moved and docked off Busan port when the crew members refused the order to stop the vessel. The government is working with the U.S. to conduct an investigation over the alleged sanctions violation, said the Foreign Ministry. NATO invites South Korea to its summit. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg has invited President Yoon Suk-yeol along with 3 other Indo-Pacific partners to the summit in Washington, D.C. this July. Speaking to reporters in Brussels, Stoltenberg announced that the treaty organization has officially invited the leaders of South Korea, Japan, New Zealand, and Australia. This will be South Korea's 3rd consecutive attendance at the summit. The head of NATO said that the organization has much to gain from this partnership against the technical, cyber, and hybrid threats, as well as support for Ukraine. Nine dead and over 900 injured in Taiwan earthquake. Rescue efforts are underway in Taiwan after a 7.4 magnitude earthquake struck the island's eastern coast, killing at least 9 and injuring more than 900. Some 137 people are trapped in collapsed tunnels and on mountainous roads along the rugged coastline. The epicenter was 11 kilometers south of Hualien City, but strong tremors were felt all the way in the capital, Taipei, less than 100 kilometers away. Hualien saw the most damage, including collapsed buildings. This is the strongest quake to hit Taiwan in 25 years. 58 aftershocks were detected, including 2 over magnitude 6.0. This was News Highlights. It's now time for Issue Wa글. We have Haley back in the studio.
Hello again.
Yes. Well, we're going to start our discussion with a celestial event, a total solar eclipse. It's going to take place over North America next week. And apparently people are like traveling from far and wide to catch this.
All right. Speaking of a natural phenomenon that people want to see, and they will for many, this has gone viral in IRL, in real life, so much so that Canada's Niagara region has declared a state of emergency.
Wow.
So about 1 million people are traveling to see a total solar eclipse here, and because it's on the path of totality. So the state of emergency goes into effect Thursday local time, so it'll provide strengthened measures for safety and public health.
Right. So I know we're going to go back to like science class.
Yeah.
We have to, because does anybody remember, or do you guys remember what exactly a total, like a solar eclipse is and why this one is such a big deal?
Right. So in Korean, it's 개기일식, right? 개기월식 is the lunar eclipse. 일식 is solar.
Okay.
So short version, basically the moon's in the way of the sun. It's blocking the sun in its orbit. But little celestial, can we say geography? It's not the Earth, but anyways, we're just going to roll with it.
Okay.
So the distance between the sun and Earth is 400 times the distance between the moon and Earth.
Okay.
And then the sun is also 400 times bigger than the moon. So the key is 400.
Yes.
So when the stars align, metaphorically, when physically that star yonder aligns with the moon perfectly, the moon actually covers the sun perfectly, entirely. So this happens every 18 months.
So not that uncommon. It happens
once
1.5 years.
But it's where, well, I mean, it's happening over there in the sky, but it's where it's happening in relations to Earth, that's a big deal, because what makes this particular solar eclipse special is that, well, not us, but some people will be able to watch it in vast swaths of populated land. So it's usually happening over areas, the Pacific Ocean, Atlantic, whatever. So AKA North America, with 31 million people will be in the path. So places over the total eclipse will go into darkness because they'll get no direct sunlight for 4 minutes. However, for scientists, it will be a busy set of 4 minutes because they'll be observing the sun's corona, that's what we call the sun's atmosphere, how Earth's wildlife reacts to this, and even launch rockets to observe how our own atmosphere reacts to it. So
wow.
Busy.
Yes. So if you're in that neck of the woods, and we have listeners in North America, so maybe you can check it
and
out.
we have the map of the U.S. with the path of the solar eclipse on it. So if you're there or nearby,
What a sight to behold. All right. Well, let's come back to, our part of the neck of the woods. Domestic issues. One apartment is being criticized online for its policy for parcel delivery people. Not again.
Right, now this again. So one apartment, this is new though, is charging parcel delivery workers a 50,000 won or roughly $40 deposit to enter their premises.
Why and what?
So this is from an online post written by someone who says that they're a delivery worker for this apartment, and it features a photo of that notification. So the apartment is putting up entry bars on the parking structure, and delivery trucks will need to pay 50,000 won to the management office to get a remote control to be able to open and close the bar. So, yeah.
Can't they just open it for... I mean, it's obviously a delivery truck. Don't they just open up?
I think they're doing it via registered vehicles, because usually there are two different entrances. One's for residents and registered vehicles, and the other for visitors.
Yes.
So they're saying if you aka quote unquote register your vehicle or get a remote, you won't have to ring the security office every single time you enter. So this particular driver says that he's discussing the matter with the company's manager, but expressed frustrations. So the response is divided. Some people saying, it's a deposit. You get the money back if you return the remote. And, so why is that a big deal? And wouldn't this be more convenient than having to ring the security office every time you enter? Others, well, why can't they just register the delivery trucks without having them pay for the remote, even though they're getting the money back? And also, some people are saying this seems like a form of kap질, especially as these deliveries are for the convenience of the residents.
They bring the packages up to your door, like literally.
Yeah, they literally feed you, because most people get their groceries this way.
I don't know. It bothers me when I hear about stories like this. I'm just saying,
right?
Like, I don't want to make it any difficult for my delivery workers, because I
know you get
them.
the money back, but it's the principle.
It's the principle. It bothers me. All right, next. A father rushed all the way from Dangjin, and that's in Chungnam, to Seoul for his daughter, only to find out that it was a scam. Oh, no.
It was, right. This is a sad story. It ends well, spoiler.
Yes.
But Seoul Police's YouTube channel posted the story of a gentleman who rushed all the way to Seoul from Dangjin. So he's in his 70s, and he received a phone call from his daughter, who told him, she was in tears, that she co-signed a loan and it went wrong, and she needed to immediately pay...
How much?
Loan sharks 27 million won immediately. So that's it's a little under $2,500. So he got 5 million won. Just at that moment, he pulled money from an ATM, went all the way to Seoul, and where the daughter lives from his home in Dangjin. But then he didn't know her exact address.
He is over 70.
He's over 70,
it's
and
possible.
you sometimes don't remember the apartment unit or the home unit
when you're flustered. Yeah.
And then he's calling her phone, but she's not picking up, because her phone had a malware app that was installed. By the way, it's the malware app and the voice phishing scammers that called him using, presumably, it wasn't clear in the police report, but presumably using software that can mimic voices
that is
something.
Scary.
So these scammers were blocking his call. So he thankfully, by the stroke of luck, went to the local patrol station asking them to find his daughter. So the police, they used their phone to call her. And the scammers let that call go through because
they
didn't know. So she was able to reunite with the father, and they had a very tearful reunion. So everything ended well. No one lost money. But lesson to be learned in these cases, if you get those suspicious phone calls, because unfortunately technology is being used for horrible, horrible things, borrow somebody else's phone to dial that number again to make sure, because the scammers can block one number.
I recently, a family member, my daughter, got a phone call saying they were from the prosecution.
Oh,
and
yeah,
she
I got
was
that
so
call
nervous.
too.
And she was texting me, I guess, while she was on the phone with this scammer. She was saying, "Mom, somebody stole my." She lost her wallet. Oh no, am I outing her? Okay, she lost her wallet about a month ago, and then what the supposed prosecutor said was, "Oh, you lost your ID. I don't know how they knew. They just assumed she had, and they took your information and scammed somebody else. So she thought that she was involved in some sort of huge, so she was crying on the phone and texting me. And I told her instantly, I was like, get off the phone. It's a scam. It's a scam. So I had one of her friends. I called one of her friends.
Right.
And had him run to her and tell her, get off the phone. It's a scam.
Right.
So thankfully,
So, I mean,
yeah.
you and I as adults who cover this
The
sort
news,
of incident
yes,
all the
yes.
time, we kind of know if the prosecution calls you, it's kind of fishy.
It's fishy.
But your daughter, young, innocent, pure-minded, and
Yes.
because I mean, young people freak out when they get a call from the police
Or
or
the prosecutor.
prosecution. Yeah, so
True story.
yes,
Yes.
educate them to let them know.
Another one here.
Right.
All right. Next, story of fatherly love we just had. Now on to another fatherly love that transcends species. Are we going to have cry? We're going to talk about Fubao.
We are.
Who left for China yesterday. And her human, is it
Granddad,
grandpa?
I think so. Grandpa.
할아버지, right?
Right.
Kangbao?
Because he's her mom's dad, human
Yes,
dad,
right.
Aibao. So Fubao the panda, yes, she did leave for China out of Incheon Airport yesterday.
Right.
And it was a huge deal. Some 6,000 fans gathered at Everland, the amusement park in Yongin, and that was despite the rain, to say goodbyes. I mean, it was very, very tearful. So Fubao was born in Korea on July 20th, 2020. She's lived in Yongin for her entire life.
Yes.
1,354 days to be specific. So she's departed on this specialized no-vibration truck for semiconductors, because that zoo is owned by the major semiconductor producer in Korea, and departed on a chartered plane provided by China. So she had a fancy trip. So she will live at the Giant Panda Conservative and Conservation and Research Center in Sichuan. But her Korean trainer and human grandfather, Kang Bao, he is accompanying her. But the thing is, his mother, his actual mother, passed away the day before, so earlier this week. Right. And of course, his employers told him to go be with his family. However, he decided to actually go on the trip because the rest of his family told him that his mother would want him to, follow Fubao and make sure that she was settled and okay.
I don't want to cry. That's so sad.
I know. So it's definitely dedication. And the Chinese Foreign Ministry welcomed Fubao and thanked her Korean staff for taking care of her. And she is already quite a big star in China. And by the way, Everland has a deal with the Chinese state media, CCTV, to provide real-time footage of her. So fans will still be able to see her.
I'm so sad, though.
Right.
I mean, and condolences to
absolutely, and
to him as well.
Definitely,
Well,
dedication.
Thank you for all the issues, going over them, and we'll check in with you tomorrow. Thank you, Haley.
Have a great day.
All right, and now it's back time for your updated traffic and weather. It is now 8:16, and here is your updated traffic report. There is an accident on the Namye Expressway going towards Doksan, and there's this accident between a trailer truck and a car right past the Karak toll gate. And there was an accident on Luno Samsungdae Road going towards Shino Bridge at the entrance of the Myeongji underpass, but it has been cleared up. However, there is still lingering congestion due to that. There is backup on Yeonsuro from Suyong intersection to Mangmi intersection, and it looks quite busy on Gwangan Bridge, as always, going towards Taeyeon overpass. As for the weather, it's currently 13 degrees Celsius under cloudy skies. The afternoon highs, we're going to inch up just a little and get to maybe 16 degrees Celsius, making for another cool day. And once again, today is Cheongmyeong, the 5th of the 24 solar cycles, marking the time when the skies begin to clear up, paving the way for spring. And ancestors considered this day a 손 없는 날, a day without bad spirits, perfect for attending to graves, home projects, and things that you may have put off during winter. And this was your traffic and weather. And this is 7 Years by Lucas Graham.
Once I was 7 years old, my mama told me, go make yourself some friends or you'll be lonely. Once I was 7 years old. It was a big, big world, but we thought we were bigger, pushing each other to the limits. We were learning quicker. By 11, smoking herb and drinking burning liquor. Never rich, so we were out to make that steady figure. Once I was 11 years old, my daddy told me, go get yourself a wife or you'll be lonely. Once I was 11 years old. Dream like my daddy before me. So I started writing songs, I started writing stories. Something about that glory just always seemed to bore me. Cause only those I really love will ever really know me. Once I was 20 years old, my story got told. Before the morning sun when life was lonely. Once I was 20 years old. Only see my goals, I don't believe in failure. Cause I know the smallest voices, they can make it major. I got my boys with me, at least those in favor. And if we don't meet before I leave, I hope I'll see you later. Once I was 20 years old, my story got told. I was writing about everything I saw before me. Once I was 20 years old. Soon we'll be 30 years old. Our songs have been sold. We've traveled around the world and we're still roaming. Soon we'll be 30 years old. I'm still learning about life. My woman brought children for me, so I can sing them all my songs and I can tell them stories. Most of my boys are with me, some are still out seeking glory, and some I had to leave behind. My brother, I'm still sorry. Soon I'll be 60 years old. My daddy got 61. Remember life and then your life becomes a better one. I made a man so happy when I wrote a letter once. I hope my children come and visit once or twice a month. Soon I'll be 60 years old. Will I think the world is cold, or will I have a lot of children who can warm me? Soon I'll be 60 years old. Soon I'll be 60 years old. Will I think the world is cold, or will I have a lot of children who can warm me? Soon I'll be 60 years old. Once I was 7 years old, my mama told me, go make yourself some friends or you'll be lonely. Once I was 7 years old. Once I was 7 years old.
Welcome back, everybody. It's now 8:21, and right before we get into our two special interviews, really quick, we asked you about what natural phenomenon, sight you want to witness. You know, what's on your bucket list? Because I don't like that term, kicking the bucket, but bucket list sounds much nicer. All right, so we have Leslie recommending Cannon Beach in Oregon. It's beautiful, she says. Well, I take your word for it. I do. 고수 Waver says, 저는 북유럽에 폭포가 있는 곳에 있던데 거기 가보고 싶어요. So he says that he wants to go to see waterfalls in northern Europe. So he saw some images on social media, and ever since then, he wants to go there. Ooh, nice, nice. So, William, natural phenomenon I would like to see this year is my San Francisco Giants beating the LA Dodgers in a baseball game at least once. And then he had an addendum to his message saying, that should read Cats LA Dodgers. That's right, they're my LA Dodgers. Come on now. No, but I'll give you one game. You can have one game, William, just because you're a nice guy. All right, I will be back in just a moment with our first special interview. For our first special interview, when we heard the breaking news yesterday, we were so shocked. I'm sure it's devastating to hear about the earthquake in Taiwan, experiencing the strongest earthquake in what they say 25 years during the early morning hours yesterday. And there was even a tsunami warning that was triggered and then later lifted. So to help us get a better grip to understand the situation on the ground, we have invited Amber Hatfield, who's a reporter and radio host at Radio Taiwan International. Let's welcome her to the program. Hi, Amber. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
And first and foremost, I do, of course, have to ask, obviously you're on air with us, but are you okay? Tell us about what you experienced.
Yeah, I'm fine. All my family and everyone is okay here in my part, which is Taipei. But actually, currently, I'm still feeling some aftershocks, some different shaking throughout the night. I was woken up a few times by some aftershocks, so it's still in the process. Yeah.
Right. So when the actual quake hit, from what I understand, 7.4, you in Taipei. Pretty far away, but close enough to feel the tremor. What did it feel like?
Oh, yeah. So in Taiwan, we have intensity ratings from like a 0 to a 7 to show how the intensity, the quake is felt by people. So in Hualien, it was a 6+, and then in Taipei, it was a 5-, but it was really scary. I was woken out of my sleep and I instantly got out of bed. I went to the door, I opened the door. So you don't want the door frame to get stuck. And then I sheltered and, just tried to stay still, tried to stay calm. But I was really panicking. My house was shaking a lot. It was quite a scary experience.
Right.
And then afterwards, I went downstairs out of my building and I was physically kind of shaking for quite a few minutes afterwards. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. So let's talk about the extent of the damage near the epicenter. What do we know right now?
Yeah, so at the moment, as of the latest figures from the operations center, we know that there have been 9 deaths. And then also there have been more than 1,000 people reported injured at the moment. Some of the first injuries and deaths that were reported were of hikers in Hualien's National Park, Taroko National Park, who were hit by falling rocks as they were hiking there. And there are still people, around 600 people at the moment, still trapped in there as roads have been closed, people aren't able to get out. So they're still, rescuing people from there as well. There have been big landslides as well on the East Coast, which is where Hualien is. So there's been some significant damage to roads as well. There were 5 or 6 large landslides. So officials have said this morning, that it could be, 2 to 3 months before parts of the roads are fixed. And today in Taiwan is actually the beginning of a 4-day national holiday. So there would have been a lot of people going to traveling home, or, going on vacations, traveling for the long holiday. So it's definitely going to be a big disruption for that as well. It's going to be quite a big impact.
Yes. And Amber, you mentioned the domestic scale, but on the Richter scale, was it not 7.4? So we have a better idea of just how big and devastating this quake was?
Yeah, so the magnitude of the earthquake, as Taiwan records it, was a 7.2.
Oh, 7.2.
According to the US survey, how they measure it, that was a 7.4. So there's a slightly different measurement, yeah.
And so this is, being touted as the strongest in 25 years. So I do want to know, in terms of Taiwan, what kind of safety measures are there? And, is this common in Taiwan, having earthquakes?
Yeah, so like you said, it is the largest earthquake in magnitude in the past 25 years. The one 25 years ago in 1999, that was the TT earthquake, and that actually had a very devastating effect. More than 2,400 people died in that earthquake, and that was a much shallower earthquake. It was actually on land. This earthquake was on out to sea, so that one had much more devastating effects. In terms of what Taiwan is doing to deal with earthquakes, they do have strict building regulations, especially for new buildings. So they have to be built up to code. They're supposed to be able to sway with the earthquake. And there are earthquake drills and things like that in schools. So students do get taught, how to prepare for an earthquake, kind of where to go, where to shelter and things like that. And then there's kind of a national education kind of campaigns, to let everyone know after an earthquake what you should do, turning off the gas pipes, things like this to try and be safe. Actually, yesterday, President Tsai Ing-wen went to the Emergency Operations Center and they opened the Central Emergency Operations Command so they can, different ministries can all interact with each other and, cooperate as quickly as possible to try and get everything moving and get the rescue operations back. Yeah.
Right. So, Amber, was this your first experience in experiencing an earthquake?
It wasn't. So I've lived in Taiwan for about 9 years now. So I have experienced a lot of earthquakes, but this was definitely the scariest one that I've ever felt before. I normally I'm okay. I say, oh, it's fine. It'll pass in a minute. But this time I was quite freaking out. I was really a bit scared that my building would collapse or something like that. I was kind of panicking. Yeah, I was trying to stay calm, but I was panicking a little bit. Yeah, like I said, I've been feeling aftershocks.
Yes.
All day yesterday, I felt like I was on a boat, kind of swaying around. I was even confused sometimes. Am I feeling an aftershock or am I imagining it? It was quite weird. Yeah, still now I'm feeling them too.
Yes. Is there anything else we need to know thus far? Because I would assume that right now of utmost importance would be trying to help those who are injured, of course, but also those people who are trapped.
Yeah, so rescue operations are still happening now to try and get those people out of those sections of national parks and sections of the East Coast where roads have been blocked. They've had to have, helicopters going in and things like that to take people in there to do rescue operations. And parts of the coast have also had ferry services put on to take people around areas where the roads are broken. But of course, getting people out of those areas is the most important thing at the moment. Yeah, but right now we know 9 people have died. There's not been an update, having more people died that we know of since last night. So at the moment, it's just we know of 9 people. Yeah.
Yes. Well, of course, we wish for just a speedy, not recovery at this point, just to help people who are trapped and those who are injured. But thank you so much for joining us so soon after the earthquake. And of course, we wish you nothing but health and safety.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I also wish, with the families of anyone who's hurt or anyone who's injured that, that everyone can recover from this and, hearts go out to those people.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks again for connecting with us, Amber. Take care.
Thank you.
All right. And yes, there you have it. Somebody who is still in Taiwan, experiencing it from I believe, 100 kilometers away, Taipei, from the epicenter, but still feeling it quite strong. So that was her first hand account of what happened. And I'll be back with her special interview number 2.
You're now listening to the world's most reliable morning show, Morning Wave in Busan with Catherine. Text in to BEFM # 9050 for 101. You can also reach us for free through our YouTube live stream or on Kakao Talk. Begin your morning with Catherine, and don't forget to reboot your day after lunch. Stay tuned for Steve Hatherley Reboot every day from 2 to 4 p.m.
And this is our special interview, which we're going to be focusing on something that may affect a lot of you out there, maybe even me included. According to a new study published earlier last month, adults who reported drinking 2 liters or more of sugar or artificially sweetened drinks per week had a higher risk of an irregular heart rhythm. It's apparently known as atrial fibrillation, if I'm not correct. I hope I'm correct in pronouncing that, AFib, compared with adults who drink fewer of these types of beverages. And the thing is, we here in Korea, there's this whole kind of surge of these 0-calorie or diet beverages, in the hopes of getting that, guilt-free pleasure of drinking soda, but without, the sugar. And so 2023 saw the delivery app sales of zero beverages more than double. So that is a huge trend. And with the reports of artificial sweetener aspartame being classified as a possible carcinogenic, I don't know, what does this mean for sugary tasting drinks, whether artificial or with sugar added, is the big question. So right now we are trying to connect with our expert on hand. We're inviting Dr. John Higgins. We're trying to get him on air with us right now. Professor of Cardiology at UTHealth Houston, to help us get the lowdown on heart health. And by the way, to all the waivers out there, I'm also curious as to your drinking habits. Drinking meaning not alcohol, but in terms of soda. Like how many sugary soda drinks do you have per day? And I certainly hope it's not at what we're talking about, like 2 liters or more. I hope it's not that. Well, I hear that we have him with us right now. So let's introduce Dr. John Higgins, who's a professor of cardiology at UTHealth Houston. Hi, Dr. Higgins. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Catherine. Hey, can you hear me okay?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Hey, Catherine, you know that earthquake actually is, stresses like that actually can bring on atrial fibrillation or AFib as well. So there's probably some extra cases, of AFib in Taiwan right now. But you did pronounce it correctly. We just, atrial fibrillation or AFib. And essentially what it is, Catherine, is there's a top part of the heart and a bottom part of the heart. Normally what happens, the blood comes in the top part of the heart, the top chambers, and then they contract and squeeze the blood down to the bottom chambers. Mm-hmm. And then the bottom chambers they squeeze the blood out to the brain and the rest of the body. Now in AFib, what happens, these top chambers are not squeezing normally. They're kind of shaking like this. And so the heart can become very inefficient. And, I'm sorry, Taylor, but, they can't just shake it off. Okay. So it can certainly be a problem for a lot of people. And that's why this study is concerning, because, a lot of people are drinking diet soda, diet pop these days, which we've always said is unhealthy for other reasons. But certainly now we've got another reason to tell people not to drink diet soda or soda.
And so who might be at higher risk to suffer from AFib?
Well, risk there, you can be a normal person that runs into AFib. So, for example, there's a thing called holiday heart, Catherine, where people party kind of like all weekend, and then they stop drinking on at the end of the weekend. And they can go into kind of like alcohol withdrawal. Mm-hmm. And that can actually bring on AFib just in a normal, healthy person.
Yes.
We also see it sometimes after someone's had some surgeries. They can sometimes, the stress of the surgeries in a normal people can put them into AFib. Generally, those types of AFib are short-lived. Now, the traditional risk factors, a lot of age is one, high blood pressure, excessive smoking, COPD, which is a lung condition, people with coronary artery disease, people who are kind of obese, and especially those people that have that problem with loud snoring and sleep apnea, as well as people who have kidney disease, diabetes, and high blood pressure, as well as consuming a lot of certain beverages that can trigger AFib, like alcohol, like too much caffeine, or certain drugs and stimulants. And that's kind of where there's a little bit of a connection with the energy drinks because they have a lot of caffeine in them.
Right, but the conditions or the precursors, some of the ones you mentioned, Dr. Higgins, that's a lot. Like that covers a lot of the population, does it not? High blood pressure, smokers, caffeine, diabetes.
Well, about, not everyone with those gets it, but, in the population, at any one time in the U.S., it's about, 1 to 2% of people have AFib. So that's millions of people. Yes. And the thing that we fear most, Catherine, with this is it particularly predisposes someone to stroke, because you can, in that little shaking kind of part of the heart, the blood doesn't move properly, and it kind of can get still and clot and form a little clot, and then that can go up to the brain. And so that's the biggest fear we have with people with AFib, and that's why we try to identify it and then get them, especially if they have risks, try to control the actual fast heart rate, but also put them on a blood thinner so that they don't form that clot and form a stroke, because, up to about 1 in 3 people with AFib during their lifetime will actually have a stroke.
Wow. So when we are, comparing the regular soda versus the artificially sweetened soda, I mean, is there a difference when it comes to AFib, or is it pretty much the same?
Yeah, actually there is. It looks like the artificial soda is worse. So in the study, which was carried over a number of years, they found that people that were drinking more than 2 liters of the artificially sweetened soda, so that's your diet sodas or your zero sodas, they had an increase in about 20% in AFib, whereas people that were drinking either regularly sweetened sodas or sweetened other beverages, it was about 10%. So, and why is that, Catherine? Well, we think it's the diet soda, the aspartame, and the other artificial sweeteners, as well as there is some salt and monosodium glutamate in a lot of these diet preps. They and as well as other kind of acids and flavorings, which can basically overexcite that top part of the heart and kind of push it into this fast, excitable, irregular rhythm called AFib. So they're kind of the worst. And, the funny thing is, Catherine, a lot of people drink diet drinks because they think, okay, that's going to help me lose weight. Well, actually, the studies on that have actually shown the opposite. In fact, people that are regularly drinking the diet sodas actually gain weight, and they're more likely to be overweight.
Interesting. Well, I do also want to focus our attention to energy drinks because, especially our young people here in Korea, they tend to turn to energy drinks because, of the extensive studying, trying to stay up so they can, study till 2, 3 a.m. into the morning. So, can you tell us about the health implications of energy drinks?
Sure. Well, first of all, Catherine, I want to make very clear that energy drinks are very different to other beverages. So they're very different to sports drinks like Gatorade and those other drinks. Okay. And they're very different to tea and coffee. In fact, those beverages actually seem to be beneficial to the body in most individuals. But the energy drinks, they've got high caffeine, high sugar, or high artificial sweeteners. And then they've got all this other stuff that, they're herbal supplements, they're glucuron, lactone, taurine, these amino acids, and they're often like in very high percentages, like, 2,000% of the recommended daily amount. So we think it's this combination of all of these things that somehow is kind of interacting and causing short-term effects, everything from people getting insomnia, bringing on seizures. We've had AFib, like we were just talking about, other irregular rhythms being associated, as well as heart attacks, strokes, kidney problems, liver problems. You name it. They can have acute effects, but, we're more concerned, Catherine, with the longer-term effects, because there are some folks that are taking them on a regular basis, and we know that they increase heart rate and increase blood pressure, as well as affect the cholesterol negatively. And people that are drinking them tend to be engaged in other bad habits like smoking, like drinking alcohol, and sometimes they actually mix the two together, the energy drinks and alcohol, like a Red Bull and vodka, for example. And so we think that there are both acute as well as long-term potential problems. So, I would say to the young people out there, it's probably best to avoid them. Some people can seem to take one and it doesn't bother them too much, but other people are very sensitive to them. So we definitely say, kids, under 18 should definitely avoid. They're very sensitive in general to caffeine. Pregnant women, those that are taking other stimulant medicines, like some of the kids who have ADHD that are taking Adderall and other stimulants, as well as people with heart problems, with AFib or high blood pressure, or having seizures or kidney or liver problems, etc. They're at kind of extra risk, so they should avoid them. But, in general, I would just say to folks, if you're going to be using something to stay awake, first of all, I'm a big proponent of exercise as medicine. So have you, have a break from your study, go and, do some jumping jacks or go for a quick run. Or alternatively, we know that coffee is actually healthy for most people. About around 3 cups to 5 cups per day is in general fairly healthy for most people.
Black coffee, right?
Tea, yes, black coffee, tea, as well as water, of course, and sports drinks. Now, sports drinks, we generally, because they have a little bit of sugar in them, but they do have the potassium and other body salts. We would say, if you're going to be exercising in a really, really hot place where you're sweating a lot, or you're going to be exercising longer, like doing endurance exercise for an hour or more, like people are going for those big runs or big bike rides, then sports drinks have been actually shown to help improve performance and reduce the that feeling of kind of tiredness. So, we're okay with that. But sports drinks are basically body salts with a little bit of glucose. They're very, very different to energy drinks, but yet in the supermarkets and in the market, you'll often see them right next to each other, but they're very different.
Right. Finally, as we wrap up our discussion today, because obviously you are our expert for today, you're a cardiologist. So what should we be careful of when it comes to heart health? What should we be wary of?
So I think, tips for everyone these days are, first of all, getting active. So, if you are in a job where you're sitting, try to get up each hour and stretch, as well as, do about, I would say for most people, around 30 minutes to 60 minutes of exercise a day. Making sure you get proper sleep, Catherine. This is something that a lot of people skimp on. And the studies have shown that the sweet spot for adults is going to be between 7 and 9 hours. If you get less than that, or if you get more than that, that's actually bad for you. And it's associated with cardiovascular risk. So getting proper sleep, eating healthy. And that means forget about the packaged foods or the things that, have a long shelf life. They are generally packed with all of those things, saturated fats, MSG, high sugar, to keep them on the shelf for a long time.
Yes.
So making sure you're getting fresh fruit, vegetables. The best diets are going to be either the Mediterranean-based or the plant-based diet, and or, the DASH, the low-salt diet.
Right.
Making sure you're not doing the bad things, not smoking or secondhand smoking. Having a glass of red wine per day, especially if it's a good Pinot Noir from down under in Australia, and making sure that you relax, and you've got some ways where you can relax and socialize. And if you're living by yourself, think about getting a pet. Dogs, dog owners in general, have a better get about 2,000 extra steps per day.
All right.
And of course, the dog makes them happy. And lastly, smile, have a great attitude. Remember, when things go bad, you can either laugh or cry. Remember to always laugh, smile, look on the bright side of life, because that will actually affect your blood pressure. People that are really, really angry can actually bring on a heart attack. And I don't want to see I want to see you guys in my hospital, okay?
All right. Well, thank you so much for your enthusiastic responses to all our questions. Take care, doctor. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Catherine, and live long and prosper.
All right. That was Dr. John Higgins. As the doctor said, smile. We have Haeyeon to make us smile for
Good
City
morning.
Insights. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, let's dive into our first
Okay,
insight.
so the today's insight is about how to read a book and have a lasting impression of it. I interviewed the author of the book, 한 번 읽은 책은 절대 잊지 않는다, which translates to a book read once is never forgotten by Mr. Hatfield. Actually, Mr. Ha also works as the director of our city's public relations division. Before this interview, he was wearing his hat as an author and an avid reader.
So I hear he has read over or almost 1,000 books in the past 20 years?
Yeah, so that means that at average, he read at least one book a week consistently for 20 years. Wow. Amazing, right?
I feel guilty now.
Yeah.
Really guilty.
Well, I asked Mr. Hatfield about his relationship to books. Did he always like reading? So let's take a listen.
사실 30대 중반까지는 책과는 담을 쌓고 살았습니다. 근데 사회생활을 이제 시작하고 한 5년 정도 지나니까 한계 상황이 오더라고요. 직장에서 일하는 것도 느리고 실적도 안 나오고 그리고 동료와의 관계도 좋지 않았습니다. 그러다 보니 집에서 또 아내와의 다툼도 잦았습니다. 그 아내가 이제 한번 어느 날 생각 없이 산다. 의욕이 좀 부족하지 않느냐는 말에 제가 충격을 받고 삶의 돌파구를 찾아야 되겠다. 그래서 이제 책을 잡기 시작했죠. 1999년도부터 시작했는데 그때는 한 해 1년 동안 8권 정도밖에 읽지는 못했습니다. 그 이후에 이제 책을 읽으면서 사람 사귀는 법, 일하는 법 이렇게 생활에 적용하다 보니까 책에서 제가 얻는 게 너무 많으니까 책을 손에 놓을 수가 없더군요. 그래서 8권이 15권 되고 20권이 되더니만 어느새 이제 50권을 읽는 수준까지 이르게 됐습니다.
He says that in his early 30s, books really weren't on his radar at all. But around 5 years into his career, things took a turn. He felt like work was sluggish, relationships were strained, and he had a lot of arguments with his wife. Then his wife's words hit him like a wake-up call. She said, you're living on autopilot and you don't know how to use your words.
Sorry.
So he turned to books to make a turnaround. Starting in 1999, he managed to read just 8 books that year, but they really became his lifeline, giving him so many answers to life, from learning how to make friends and improving at work. Then 8 books turned into 50 a year, and in 20 years, it's turned into 1,000 books.
Wow. And so the title, A Book Read Once is Never Forgotten, suggests maybe he kind of has a secret to all this?
Yeah, so basically he's suggesting to write reflections after reading the book on a little piece of card.
Okay.
Sort of like a mini book report. He's been doing this for many years and keeps the card inside the book after he writes it so that whenever he revisits the book, it's there for him to take a look at.
I like that.
Yeah, he developed this into a reading method called Gain Change and even filed a patent application for it. So let's listen to Mr. Hatfield talk about this method.
예, 책을 읽고 정리하는 방법입니다. 제가 20년 동안 책을 읽고 독후 활동을 하면서 딱 4가지 사항만 적으면 책을 완전히 파악했다고 할 수 있다는 것을 알게 되었습니다. 첫 번째는 카피. 책 내용 중에 기억에 남는 문장을 내게 와닿는 문장을 옮겼습니다. 두 번째는 컨텐츠. 책의 핵심 내용을 정리하는 거죠. 다음은 게인. 책으로부터 획득한 정보와 지식, 통찰력을 기록합니다. 마지막이 가장 중요한데요. 체인지입니다. 내게 일어난 변화를 파악하고 적습니다. 저는 책을 읽고 행동의 변화가 있으면 가장 좋고 그 다음에 아니면은 생각의 변화 아니면 알의 깊이를 더 깊게 하는 변화가 있는 게 가장 중요하다고 봅니다.
He shared that gain change is a technique that he's honed over 2 decades. After years of diving into books and post-reading rituals, he uncovered a 4-step routine. The first one is copy, jotting down memorable lines that impact you.
Okay.
Then contents, condensing the book's essence by summarizing it. And after that, gain, capturing all the insights and knowledge you gained from that particular book. And finally, change, which is identifying and recording the changes in yourself by this book. And he says that the last step is the most important because he believes that reading should bring about change in one's behavior or at least a shift in thoughts or deepening of knowledge.
What a great method to reflect on books, right?
Yes, and he shared a funny story. He was being interviewed once by an reporter, and the reporter expressed surprise at Mr. Hu's ordinary nature despite his great professional achievements. achievements. So he took it as a compliment. For him, as the most ordinary guy you could meet, it was reading books that brought him fulfillment and skills that helped out his career.
Well, thank you so much for this first insight. We got to dive into our second.
All right. Next, I sat down with the chairman of the Busan Gallery Association, Ms. Yoon Young-suk, to get into the Busan Annual Market of Art, also known as BAMA.
Yes.
That's just around the corner next week.
Tell us more.
Yes. It's our country's third largest international art fair. Takes place at Bexco. And this year, there's going to be 134 domestic galleries and 14 international ones exhibiting around 4,000 artworks.
Ooh, so who or what should we be on the outlook for?
Yes, so as the art world is shifting focus from the Western-centric artists to Asian artists, they're on board with a special exhibition on East Asian artists. So you can expect artists like the Thai artist Nia Mawornkanong and Nakhon, Kamway, and Pancha bringing fresh perspectives to the Asian art scene.
Yes, so what are we going to hear for our clip?
Okay, so she's going to talk about the Catalonia Women Urban Artist Exhibition showcasing mural and graffiti work. So let's take a listen.
그래피티는 대중을 위한 예술이며 모두를 위한 사고의 공간이기도 합니다. 하지만 수십 년 동안 여성 그래피티 아티스트들은 마땅히 받아야 할 그런 인정을 얻지 못하고 무시당해 왔습니다. 그렇게 재능 넘치는 카탈루냐 출신 여성 예술가들을 바마에 특별히 소개하고자 그렇게 합니다. 참여 작가로는 릴리 브릭, 미나 하마다, 마리나 깝데빌라, 레보빈 아르트입니다. 예, 그래서 직접 행사장에서 그래피티 시연을 계속 4일간을 합니다. 시연은 릴리 브릭이 멋지게 할 예정으로 되어 있습니다.
She says that graffiti is all about collective expression, but female artists haven't always gotten their due. That's why this showcase of Catalonia women artists aims to change that narrative. Artists like Lily Brick, Mina Hamada, Marina Capdevila are taking part in this at BAMA, and Lily Brick, who will be doing a live artwork demonstration at the venue, brings a powerful female perspective to her graffiti, focusing on the strength of humanity.
And so is all of this taking place at Bexco or?
Yes, so most of them will be going on inside Bexco.
Okay.
There will be also art talks and guided tours. But if you're up for it, there's going to be an art bus tour that lets you explore different spots in Busan, like the Gukje Gallery, Museum 1, and the Koon Museum of Photography.
Ooh, that sounds nice. An art bus tour. Yes. But I want to go back to a little bit, if we can, to the whole reading thing. I was kind of like really intrigued by his story.
Yeah.
Because like you said, he's just an ordinary person like you, me, anybody out there. But I mean, it seems like books really changed his life, the course of his life.
He really found all the answers for the challenges in life through books.
Right.
And basically, I was really intrigued by him saying that, writing the kind of essences of the book on a card, it's like a book report. I don't know if you experienced this lately, but sometimes I would really read a book with focus.
Yes.
But then a couple of days later, I would forget what it was about. But
I'm so there also.
But if you think about it, for the books that I read in my childhood,
yes,
the ones that I had to write a book report on, actually they're still in my head.
That is so true.
So I think there is a point to his method.
Right.
Gain, change.
Reading and just jotting something really short down.
Yeah.
And then putting it in the book like a bookmark almost.
Exactly. So
That's
when
a
you
great
go
idea.
back to it, like on maybe a pretty little postcard even.
Right. I'm getting so motivated. I know Haley's out there. She has a plethora of books, so I'm going to have to hit her up and borrow a book.
Get a pack of cards.
Yes.
The recording.
Well, thank you so much for City Insights today. We do appreciate it. Take care. Thank you, Han.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. As Dr. Higgins, I loved having him because he was so enthusiastic. And that last part, you're faced with, life. You can either smile, you can cry, you can cringe, but he recommended smiling and laughing. So that's what I wish for you today. All right? Well, thank you for joining us today, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Have a good day, everybody. Bye-bye.